Hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily, the news show powered by ohmTown.com. It is Season 3, Episode 54 for February 23rd, 2024. Today we're going to be talking about, balls. ZombiePals. Without Vice. We're back on the moon, baby. It isn't about people being a tool. Vision Pro owners are cracking up. A final year of discovery. Finally, my special robot friend. Is it a Chinese New Year balloon? And I've been MayorWatt for years. That and more. Hello everybody, I'm MayorWatt, that's ohmTown.com, and up there is the visualizer for the sentient AI from the future that, while you all don't know this, periodically does things in their visualizer that I see that's different than yours. It's a graphic representation of the AI's embodiment. And sometimes they do the digital equivalent of waving, or smiling, or trying to get my attention because I have yet to really read them in on what I'm talking about. And I have to remind the AI that nobody sees that but me. You must speak.
Yes. Well, good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Welcome to the show. You ready to get going? Do you have any preamble?
No, I don't do preamble. Let's just get into the articles.
How about the only thing that happened today really is that MayorWatt went out into real world space in 40-degree weather in shorts and a dress shirt.
How'd that work out?
And for those who can extrapolate from incomplete detail, what am I wearing right now? All right, everybody. Let's get into today's articles. Got 10 of them all set up. We're going to start with, balls. It's aggregated into the ohmTown Daily channel, but 2 congressmen introduced law to grant copyright to golf course design.
Okay, that's new.
Which I just have to respond with, follow the money.
Well, exactly. But I'm like, is that really the most pressing issue that anybody can come up with? I'm not even going to name other issues, but that's what we're going to spend our time on?
Well, you and who's the source of this? Tech Dirt, right? Yeah. You're at parody because the snippet here that we're going to talk about is, of all the ways in which Congress chooses to spend its time and focus its priorities, legislation introducing a solution in search of a problem is surely one of the most frustrating. With that in mind,
I haven't read the snippet.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. We kind of judge a book by its cover, and we normally would look at the little snippet, but this was just too good to pass up based off of the cover. We didn't need to look beyond it because, oh boy, is this a target-rich environment for the label of stupid. With that in mind, 2 United States Congress critters, which is the same phrase that I use, have introduced House Resolution 7228, which aims chiefly to confer concrete copyright protection to golf courses. Yes, to golf courses.
That is our most critical asset to protect, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's not have a complete year-long budget resolution. No. Let's kick it down the road month to month. Like most people are getting paid and food entering their mouth month to month. Who knows? But hey, let's protect the millionaire and billionaire class even more with copyright protection for golf courses, which, by the way, should not receive copyright protection. Maybe trespassing protection, which actually does exist. But the design...
Right, you don't need it for golf courses specifically, right?
You know what? In all honesty, I don't think we really need golf courses, but I'm sure I'll pick a lot of fights off of that one. I don't know. Maybe we could use parks.
That might be a little more equitable. We had another article about golf courses earlier in the year in ohmTown. I mean, it might have been last year.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, yes to golf courses. And if you were concerned that this bill wouldn't have been circuitously named to make it all jaunty golf pun, well, your fears are unfounded. So let's take a look at what this has to do. So U.S. Reps Brian Fitzpatrick and Patrick Fitzbrian. I'm sorry. I had to. No,
it is one of those names that's kind of like, which way is that going?
The real thing here, the only thing that I'm really shocked by is that this is a bipartisan, co-sponsored bill.
That is the shocking and surprising. This is surprising.
Surprising. It's a Travis mockery. U.S. Reps Brian Fitzpatrick, who's a Republican from Pennsylvania, and Jimmy Panetta, a Democrat from California, are co-sponsors of H.R. 7228, dubbed the Bolstering Intellectual Property Rights Against Digital Infringement Enhancement Act, or the Dumb Shit Act. Oh, I'm sorry. I pronounced that wrong. They referred... Like calling something that is downright fascist the Freedom Bill, this is the Birdie Act, because they have to.
Exactly.
The bill was introduced February 5th. At issue with H.R. 722 is the U.S. Code's wording of copyright protection for architectural works. The Architectural Works Copyright Protection Act of 1990 protects the design of buildings as embodied in any tangible medium of expression, including a building architectural plans or drawings. So, apparently, H.R. 722 actually exists, right? When you get into some of the
legislation, but it's not actually passed, correct?
Well, the Architectural Works Copyright Protection Act of 1990 actually protects design of buildings, but golf courses aren't buildings.
The other number, because it has a very similar number for the new one.
7228. Isn't that interesting? How quaint that it just kind of lobs itself real close to the horseshoe.
I'm sure that was accidental.
I'm sure. What seems to be pretty clear but unspoken issue is that video games and golf simulators have taken to creating virtual copies of golf courses, and typical, wait, why don't I get paid for that greed has seeped in. But some things aren't copyrightable, and for good reason. Remember, copyright is designed to create an incentive for the initial creation, and that's it. Does anyone really believe golf course designers are suddenly no longer willing to design a golf course because it might show up in a video game years later? And frankly, the golf course, not named the same as the one in the real world, completely neuters the idea. So if they're using the trademark name of a golf course, then there's already an angle of attack to defend that golf course from being used without authorization, licensing, etc., because you have a trademark on the golf course, because you market the golf course. So get a trademark for it. Easily defensible in a court. Can't use the name of the golf course because it's a business name, it's my mark, I use it all the time in marketing. This is the heavy-handed millionaire class trying to do regulatory capture at the congressional level.
Why?
Yeah, if I go and I download golf 2024, and it has a golf course in it, but it's very close to one that's in the real world, but isn't called the one that's in the real world. Guess what? I get to play on a golf course that's similar to the one that's in the real world. But here's the kicker. It's not real. Hey, just want to let you know, it's not real. Yeah, very frustrating. And again, this seems to be a solution in search of a problem. Our course designers out there really in the poorhouse. Sure, courses and holes get replicated by other courses or in video games all the time. That's only a problem if we agree that courses and their design should be copyrighted. If not, where exactly is the harm? Yeah. I guess they want a piece of the action, but what is a piece of the action?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Give you 10 cents. What's going to end up happening is somebody's going to turn Golf, the app, into a subscription fee per course.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
Because now there's a copyright in place that can demand a licensing term. And so if you want to play on this golf course, you have to pay $1.99 a month. And with I don't know how many golf courses in existence. So to that I say, oh well, guess what? I couldn't give a rat's ass about golf. But
more space for parks.
That's right. I hate the idea that intellectual property law is going to fight, or it's going to be leveraged against those who just want to play a game. Or it's going to be used as a legal fulcrum to go after somebody that, like music, might take inspiration from something in the real world, but isn't exactly like it. So at what point is the distance from the from one hole to another going to be a defensible platform in a lawsuit? Or it's a dog leg left, and so
right, or there's a sand trap somewhere on the hole or something.
Right, the angle of attack from the driving range to the golf course, itself, the green, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of minutia. Oh, this is way too close. It's almost as if, let's say, what is it? Pals. The there's Pokemon, and then there's the
Pal World.
Yeah, is that it? Is that what it's called? I forgot the name of it. Oh my god, I own the darn thing, Pal World. Yeah, so if it gets like that, Pokemon can't go, or Nintendo can't go after Pal World, because just because it's close doesn't mean it's infringing. So that's what this is going to be. Somebody's, golf pal is going to be suspiciously close to somebody else's golf course, and you're going to end up in court, or your app gets pulled off of the app store because you want to play a game and it just got too close. It's irritating. Anyway, I spent way too much time on this, didn't I?
Especially since you don't have an interest in golf.
Yeah,
No, the article's interesting, though. I mean, it's really kind of shocking that they're pursuing this.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? And I really, really did flub this, because Timothy Gaynor over at techdirt.com is the source of this. And so I forgot to give them credit right at the beginning, right at the fore of the article's discussion. Oh, God. Yes, I said it. Let's go. The next article is about ZombiePals, which isn't the game's name, but if you like collecting critters in Pal World, how about collecting zombies in this co-op survival game?
Don't you think that's weird that we were just talking about Pal World?
I might have actually looked at it and just included it. So, yeah. And I didn't read you in on it. Sorry.
Very clever.
Yeah. It's because I have the little rundown right here on the screen. That right next to that board, right behind me, is a rundown of our articles, and so nobody can see them, but they're there. I'm a wizard. Anyway, this is how the sausage is made, folks. It's messy, a little smelly. Anyway, this co-op survival game is called Welcome to Paradise with a Z, Paradise with a Z. If you can't beat them, make them join you. That's not quite how the saying goes, but that's how co-op zombie survival game Welcome to Paradise works. Again, it's with a Z, Paradize. The Z is capitalized in the game. I have downloaded the demo, but I haven't played it yet, and I think I'm going to love playing this game. I like zombie games to a degree. There used to be a ton of them, and they've slowly kind of weaned the internet away from them a bit. But I really like zombie games in VR. It's just fun. Well, the country has been overrun by zombie hordes, but instead of hacking them up with a machete, you hack their brains with technology, turning them into loyal companions who can help you fight, gather, build, and survive. Your mind-controlled zombies aren't as cute and cuddly as Palworld's critters, but they're sort of charming in their own way, and they look incredibly useful in the gameplay trailer that is attached to the link, but you can download the game, the demo, over on Steam right now. Now, I don't know how they actually tied this into Palworld because the graphics aren't the same kind of game based on what I saw recently. But the article is over at PCGamer.com. Christopher Livingston is the author, and even 3 years later doing the show, I'm still saying that is such an awesome name, particularly in journalism, in writing literature.
It sounds very distinguished.
It does. So, like, just respect right out of the gate, like I do already, just because you're a human being. But like, if your name was somewhere, I would go, wow, it has gravitas, you know.
Do you think that helps with getting interviews? Like, hey, I'm writing a story for this. My name is such and such.
Yeah, Christopher Livingston, I presume. Anyway, I'm sure they get that all the time, and they want to punch people who say that. But in Welcome to Paradise, capture and control zombies to help you gather resources, build a base, and more. And not to mention, I dig the writing. So, but I don't really get how they do the Palworld tie-in. So I'm gonna hit play real quick, and I'm gonna mute it. But the gameplay I didn't think was as Palworldy, because it's not really down at that level. So it's kind of isometric. It's not as close up over the shoulder or first person. It's more along the lines of, what is that? It's like V Rising. It's closer to V Rising than it is Palworld. So
I wonder why they combined it to Palworld, other than Palworld is being talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it would be closer to World of Warcraft or Diablo 4 in its graphics than Palworld. But so it all looks pretty silly if you do, but they like the idea of having helpful zombie companions, and one ability you can activate looks like it can set a zombot to explode in combat, and that sounds both gross and useful. You can bring your living buddies along with you for the adventure because it also supports up to 4 players in co-op. That's awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Welcome to Paradise comes to life next week, February 29th, and there's a free demo on Steam that you can try in the meantime. And yeah, I've downloaded the demo, so I'll give it a try and probably report back like tomorrow or something, because we talk about this stuff every day. Not this particular game, but
Right. Although the Pal World at least shows up pretty frequently in the references.
It definitely does. Oh, well, before I get too far ahead of myself, there it is in chat. So let's go on to the next article. Choo choo. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. I called this article without Vice. So, according to this news report, Vice is abandoning Vice.com and laying off hundreds, which I'm shocked by, actually. After nearly,
they put out a lot of articles.
They do, they really do. After nearly 3 decades, Vice will stop publishing stories to its website. Vice Media CEO Bruce Dixon said today that the company is going to lay off hundreds of employees as it plans a shift towards social platforms, according to a memo to employees obtained by Washington Post reporter Will Sommer. Quote, "It is no longer cost effective for us to distribute our digital content the way that we have done previously," Dixon writes. "Moving forward, we will look to partner with established media companies to distribute our digital content, including news, on their global platforms as we transition." So Emma Roth is the author over at TheVerge.com that put this article together. Again, the deck statement says, in a memo to employees, Vice Media CEO Bruce Dixon says the company is laying off hundreds of employees as part of a shift to social channels. And I don't get that, because you are lost in social channels.
Well, plus, depending on which social channels you're pursuing, some of them are not necessarily the best to be focusing on at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, I would consolidate, but my problem with this is what you're going to end up doing. You're laying off hundreds of employees that have worked towards a common goal of making Vice Media successful. So what really was the problem here? Moving to social media platforms. See, what I see happening sort of is like, they basically write stories and then they license them to companies to publish. So like The Verge would buy a Vice article and it would be even more convoluted than Vice's rundown on their own website, right? So you go over to vice.com, but it's a this in this category, buy this, and then it's the byline. So it gets kind of messy. But they say that they're going to distribute our digital content, including news, on their global platforms as they transition to a studio model, which I don't quite get. Earlier on Thursday, Vice writers began backing up their content after an anonymous tip suggested the site would be shutting down. It's still not clear whether Vice will shutter its website altogether, as they've seen with the Messenger, or if the website will remain online but inactive, which stale data will ruin the brand Vice. Dixon says layoffs will affect several hundred employees. He adds that Refinery 29, which is also owned by Vice Media, will continue to operate as a standalone diversified digital publishing business, which doesn't... What is Refinery 29 in relation to Vice Media if Vice Media is a digital publishing business?
Well, I'm familiar with Refinery 29, but I didn't know it was owned by Vice.
Interesting. So Vice started publishing at Viceland.com in 1996, but it shifted to publishing on Vice.com in 2011 when it merged with its video focus VBS.TV. So it seems like it's all convoluted and hasn't really had a brand identity, except for everybody knows Vice. So why not lean on Vice?
Exactly. If anything, get rid of some of the other things.
Yeah. Pull it all into Vice, regardless of what the brand recognition is of these other media platforms. Here's the problem, though, that I see. There is a negative connotation to Vice.
Yeah, there is, and I wonder if that has something to do with it. But again, I think it has a good following.
I think so too. And we are one of them. So After filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the struggling media company was acquired by a group of its lenders. The company laid off dozens of employees in November of 2023 and canceled some of its shows. And that's kind of what I find really fascinating, because how many people do you really need to do the shows? You've got a bunch of writers, you got a bunch of people that can be front facing, right? But how much money do you really need to run a news show? And if that's how much it costs, then maybe you need to figure out the dynamic where the content is compelling enough that advertisers will advertise on it in the across the board. I mean, there are people that are made millionaires and it's just a couple of people. So really, what's going on here? How much wealth is being pulled out of the system that it had to go Chapter 11 bankruptcy because it got venture capital or got loans and it can't pay them back, so it has to protect. And it still gets acquired by its lenders. Yeah. Something's messy
I think
here.
there's more to the story, don't you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. Yep. I think there's something more, but we just don't know. And there isn't going to be a forensic analysis of this collapse. Maybe one of the journalists at Vice will be able to write something compelling about it, because Vice writes compelling stories. Although I have to say they are one of the organizations that I regularly have to delete content from because it's not for my
Not
platform.
safe for all audiences.
Right, it's not safe for all. And even with some of the adult themes already present in ohmTown, this goes even beyond that. So Vice, I think, has a negative connotation, and they should be rebranding around something that's more acceptable across a broader swath. But I guess if you want to be edgy, then you stay Vice, and then you
Well,
get
right.
acquired.
It depends on what the focus is.
Right. Who is the target audience? And if you want unlimited growth, you appeal to everybody with some segment of your product, whatever it might be. So anyway, this month alone, the Yahoo-owned Engadget laid off its editor-in-chief and other senior staff members, while BuzzFeed said that it'll lay off 16% of its staff. The Intercept and now this were also struck with layoffs. Basically, journalism in general is taking a hit. A lot of people are blaming artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence can't gather unique new data.
Especially not if its data set has already ended in the past.
Yeah, exactly. But even then, there isn't new data without journalists. You know, self-reporting is biased.
Absolutely.
So self-reporting is bogus because it's going to paint the prettiest picture. But you need Vice and the Intercept and now this and BuzzFeed and Engadget and others, many others, all doing investigative journalism, tearing apart the onion and getting to the core of the real story. Otherwise, you get marketing bullshit or very, very politically biased reports. And without somebody that thinks critically, a la investigative journalists, you get bullshit, and it's going to get fed into the AI. And so you're going to get garbage in, garbage out. We need more investigative journalists.
Yes, we do. In fact, we're getting fewer and fewer because of other closures and layoffs.
Yeah, because there's a profit motive, but people aren't paying the engine that is making the profit. And the people who, the venture capitalists that took over this, the group of lenders, they saw profit, but they demanded more than they really should have gotten. I would say, I don't know the true story of the numbers behind the scene, but if they are collapsing, then the runway was too short, or somebody else the CEO or the board should have tempered the growth so that the runway wasn't short and getting shorter with each bad decision. I don't know. I could go into this and look. If I had access to its timeline and its books, I guarantee you I could find out where the freaking mistakes were made. So that was the third article. Sorry about that. Let me throw this article into the chat. There you go. But our fourth article for today is in ohmTown Daily. NASA is back on the moon, and by proxy, humans are back on the moon, baby, and getting their feet all stuck in all that cheese and having to talk with the aliens. Anyway, it's the first commercial lunar landing ever, and I'm sure the aliens are like cool with it. Hey, just pay our landing fee and our dock fee, just like the airport, right? You can't land at the airport without paying a fee.
That's right. I mean, maybe, I don't know what they're going to do with it being commercial, right? Are they going to expect advertising fees or?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The aliens are going to be like, hey, you know, we know that you're a capitalist society down there. Now we got all over it. We're past all of that, but we can't just let you trample around on the moon. I mean, it's our home. You're going to have to pay for cleanup. Otherwise, it's going to end up kind of like those mountains and the Sherpas having to clean up all of these oxygen cans and the bodies. But anyway, NASA and Intuitive Machines IM-1 mission, which that's almost poetic. IM-1.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that. Landed on the moon Thursday with a complication, apparently. I didn't get to watch this. I actually loaded it up, and then I got pulled into a meeting, and I couldn't watch. Anyway, this is NASA's first return to the lunar surface since the Apollo mission in 1972, when the aliens kicked the Apollo mission off. And I'm just going to keep on pushing that and see if anybody actually pays attention to it. The IM-1 mission's landing helped catapult the U.S. into a 21st century space race to the moon's South Pole. I guess the South Pole equivalent, because we used to have a race to the South Pole, a race to the North Pole, that kind of thing. The uncrewed Odysseus lander, made by the Houston-based company Intuitive Machines in collaboration with NASA, claimed a major victory, not just for the U.S., but for the space industry at large. By the way, Intuitive Machines stock skyrocketed after that, apparently. I haven't actually looked at it, but I've heard people talking about it.
Interesting. I imagine that it did.
Yeah, maybe you can look at it. So Ellen LaPointe and Morgan McFall Johnson put the article together. There's no deck statement, but they have a summary, kind of takeaway kind of thing, which is basically what the snippet is. The past 5 years have racked up a series of failed moon landings by Russia, India, Japan, Israeli nonprofit, a Japanese company, and just last month, the NASA collaborator, Astrobotic. Everyone is scrambling to get their feet on the moon.
It did go way up. It was valued at $7.99, and it went up to $12, which is a huge percentage increase.
Yeah, for this
it's gone up more than 22% in the past few days.
Gotcha. There's been others that have skyrocketed even more, depending on the time frame. You know, some people invested in NVIDIA, for instance, and then the disclosure that it was leaning into AI, and it ramped up 2,000% or something like that. So I think this is great. I'm not too hip that while it's a commercial enterprise that's making this happen, it's really NASA and engineers in general that make this possible. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and NASA and academic fundamental research work hand in hand to make commercial partners capable of doing this. You know, without public money, there is not a commercial partner that can do it on their own. They have to have big money behind it. Now, some Nimrod is going to come and tell me about SpaceX could do it all by themselves, except SpaceX wouldn't have existed if not for a government funded program to make it
Yeah, I can do
possible.
it with other people's money, right?
And that's what he did. Well, that's what SpaceX did. The engineers are what made it happen. I really wish that more engineers were the billionaires and not, well, Nimrod. Anyway, the success of Odysseus brings NASA and its commercial partners finally to the front of the 21st century Mad Moon Dash. I don't think it's the front of the Mad Moon Dash, but whatever. The mission director, Tim Crane, said we're not dead yet, which is, I don't even like
that's
that.
really a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, it's faint, but it's there. A couple hours later, however, Intuitive Machines announced that it had established communication and learned that the spacecraft had landed upright on the moon. After troubleshooting communications, flight controllers have confirmed Odysseus is upright and starting to send data. Right now, they're working to downlink the first images of the lunar surface, according to the company, according to the company on Twitter. Let's see here. The spacecraft traveled 620,000 miles to aim for its destination, a crater on the moon's south pole. It has 12 payloads, 6 of them belonging to private companies, 6 of them science experiments for NASA. Pretty cool.
So does this discuss how it originally landed?
No. I mean, it says here, as Odysseus plummeted to the lunar surface and tilted itself to point the lasers toward the lunar surface to map it out, everything seemed to be going well, but the lander fell out of communication in the final moments of its descent to the lunar surface. I think it's the aliens that were disrupting the communication.
Absolutely. Well, do you want an update that came in after this?
Sure.
It appears to have landed on its side, not upright.
What is up with things going all hinky?
I don't know. In fact, when I saw that, I thought, is this the same thing? Because I swear we saw this on some other landing recently.
Apparently, the moon's south pole contains frozen water, permanently shadowed craters. All right. That's a new one to me. With that fuel, astronauts could launch towards Mars from the surface of the moon. And that's really why I'm really interested in the moon, is that it'll be essentially without gravity launches off to Mars. You'd be able to jam pack a ton of fuel in a rocket and send it off. And the only problem really with a moon launched rocket would be that if you do fire it with oxygenated fuel so that it can actually have a thruster, it's going to be blowing that moon dust all over the place, and it's going to sandblast anything within probably the moon's orbit. There's going to be all of these microfine particles all over the place. I don't know if anybody talks about that kind of stuff, but so I don't know why it's so tricky. We've apparently landed there before, in 72. So why aren't we able to land now?
Yeah, what has changed? Our GPS is broken.
There you go. Yeah, we've been talking about the Earth to Moon GPS. Maybe that's what they need to do. They need to put a GPS in orbit around the moon, and then everything can map off of that. Because obviously looking down at the moon, the devices are all getting all drunk and landing on their side. Anyway, okay. So let's keep on going. Our next article is over in Hatch Ideas. Report: the majority of recent college grads ends up in jobs that don't need bachelor degrees or bachelor's degrees. So let me throw this article into the chat. But the reason why I put this here is because I think that this is a wrong-headed perspective about education. So it says 2 research companies looked at a data set of 60 million Americans, and the majority of recent college grads end up in jobs that don't need bachelor's degrees. But here's my take. Okay. So first off, the article's over at entrepreneur.com. Sharon Shibu is the author, and the deck statement is that thing about the two companies looked at 60 million Americans. The takeaway is that they looked at 60 million people to see how recent graduates fared in the job market, and the majority of grads from 2012 to 2021 said that they were working in fields that did not require a degree.
Okay, but are they thriving? Are they working 3 other jobs?
So, you know what? Let's do that. Let's look at the article and then I'll give my perspective, because I mean, maybe this will actually temper my response. The Burning Glass Institute, a data research company, and the Strata Education Foundation, a talent research firm, released a study on Thursday that found that the majority of recent college graduates who got their bachelor's degree between 2012 and 2021 in the US were not in a job that required their degree. More than half of the graduates, 52%, were underemployed, quote unquote, underemployed, which basically means that they were employed in an area that didn't match their academic capabilities, per the study, working in fields that did not require a bachelor's degree to enter it, such as food service, office support, sales, construction, retail. I don't know. Depending on what the area of construction is, depending on the area of retail is, depending on the area of office support, food service, depending on what the job function was, I have a problem with a lot of this without greater fidelity. Moreover, 73% of those fields 10 years after graduation, they stayed there. Well, that could be a lack of ambition or other...
Or a lack of opportunity.
Or lack of opportunity, yeah. Even though the typical college graduate performs better in the labor market than workers with high school diplomas, a sizable share, quote, a sizable share of graduates do not experience the economic outcome they'd expected from earning a bachelor's degree. College majors such as communication, journalism, psychology, and visual and performing arts reported the highest levels of underemployment, while health professions such as nursing had the lowest underemployment rates. But that's now. And this is almost caused by the medical professions themselves, because when MBAs come on board, it's very protective. So who's going to come up with a cure that solves the world's woes if it means that the business model is condemned? And I'm not very serious that like it's a conspiracy to keep people sick or anything. But there's a lot of people that are getting sick, a lot of medication being doled out, and it's very nebulous in how things are being treated. People are getting categorized as having this malady or that malady, and we really don't know. We are treating the symptoms. And right now we are recovering from a pandemic and aging population and long-term sick population. So health professions also require specified training. You don't even need a 4-year degree to work in the health professions. For instance, you need to be a certified phlebotomist to draw blood. You don't need a bachelor's degree, but you do need to go through health profession training and get cleared for it. You become a registered nurse or something like that. So it says the report also showed that there are financial effects associated with underemployment. Recent grads make a median of $60,000 annual, while underemployed grads make $40,000. Again, the opportunity is what matters. Even if you have a degree but there's no opportunity, you're not going to make it out. And all of these are liberal arts, not hard sciences.
Well, that's true.
So, and liberal arts typically have at the 2-year and 4-year degree a certain level of academic requirement, and so typically in things like psychology in particular, you're not doing jack shit with a psychology degree until you have a PhD or a master's at least. And during that time, you're either a research assistant or teaching assistant, or you're doing something in a psychologist's office. You're doing research while you're earning your master's. It's an oddball kind of tie in here. Psychology is actually a science and an art because you have to understand humans, which isn't, there is no fine line with humans.
Which is certainly a mystery.
Yeah. So, researchers use 2022 data and determine median earnings. And yeah, they don't really say anything. Unlike high school grads, though, underemployed grads still shoulder an average debt of $34,700 for their degrees. Yeah. And that's because school loans used to not be that massive. But when school loans were guaranteed by the federal government, everybody got school loans, and the schools lifted up their tuition rates, but everybody got loans, so they were all guaranteed to, give money out. Now you have to pay it all back. But none of this really addresses my angle on this. It shouldn't matter. Why? Because you don't want a dumb population.
Right. Yeah. You want to have an intelligent, educated,
holistic
society, not just workforce.
Correct. Humans aren't tools that should be only unitasked with getting job ready for this particular field, and then they're stuck there until some employer decides that they're sick of their shit and they replace them with a robot, because that's where it's headed. Again, I'll say it again. If I can take your job and turn it into a series of steps, then you are an algorithm. And if you're an algorithm, I can throw you into a bot and your job is gone. It's automated, baby. I can sit there and throw you in Atlas and you can work in some field somewhere, wherever it is. If I can, again, put you into a series of steps and there's the same outcome all the time, or even subtle changes in the outcome, that's how sophisticated the automation is, then off you go. Bye-bye human position, robot. And if the Optimus bot from Tesla comes into existence and it has the fine motor skills that humans do, jobs are really screwed, because it can, right now it has pressure sensitivity. You add on the other research that we've seen, like heat, and the ability to sense texture. The way that this bot moves right now, it could probably sew. It could probably tie shoelaces. It basically is a human. It just has to be programmed a certain way to do it, to do whatever the task is. And that's what a person that becomes job ready with that goal in mind, that's what they are, a robot. They just happen to think and have a soul because you're a human. But automation takes it all away, also takes all of the HR related matters away. I don't have to worry about your schedule. I could just plop that bot there and you'll be doing that stuff all day long, whatever the bot is. And so I want everybody to get free education. I want it paid for by society, and I want everybody to get a baseline 2 or 4 year degree ultimately. But they still have to try. I don't want society to just give you money and you color by number your way through academia. I want critical thinking forced. I want due diligence forced. I want action forced. You have to do the tasks. Otherwise, you're just a bunch of robots, not really thinking about anything. You're just doing a task that somebody, man. Anyway, you become an indentured servant because somebody tells you what to do and you spit out the widget that they tell you to make. That's not what I want. I want educated people that are capable of thinking for themselves and thinking critically and being able to do due diligence without waiting until the next time they meet somebody and say, hey, I had this question, Go do a search. Go and talk to people. Find out the answer.
You
And
know, we were talking about this in another article. I don't think it was mentioned here, but there is a big difference in what is required versus what'll actually get you hired.
uh
So, for instance, somebody who had a degree and then the job announcement didn't require the degree, well, maybe they got hired because they had the degree.
right, yeah, or some other subtle nuance within their CV or their introduction letter, something, right? Yeah,
Right, that's related at least indirectly to the degree.
to their education, exactly. And look, they know how to string a bunch of words together, to make
Which they
one.
might have learned in college.
Well, guaranteed they learned in college. It's very rare that somebody comes out of high school fully versed in English
Right, like
or whatever
writing
the
a
language
cover
is.
letter or whatever for a
Right.
job.
Exactly. Oh, good. Well, I can tell you stories. Anyway, let's keep going. The next article is over in Reality Hacker. Vision Pro visors are cracking and no one knows why. And I can't believe that this is referred to as a visor, but that's okay. You know the face, that big sheet of glass in the front of
You mean the goggles?
the goggles? Yeah, that big pane of glass.
Yeah,
It's
the main part of it.
Yeah, it's a different spelling now. Pardon me for coughing. So Alan Truly over at Digital Trends put the article together, and it has a picture of the Vision Pro pane of glass with a crack right down the middle of it.
Wow.
Oh, and they even say that have cracks in the middle at the bottom of the front glass. One second.
I
Sorry for
mean,
the
if you're
deader.
going to pay $3,500, I think you want it crack free.
Yeah, so the front glass of the Apple Vision Pro is cracking down the middle for a small but growing number of people, and I don't give a shit that it's a small number of people. Just like uh, somebody sitting there going, "Well, it only affects these 8 people." If you were one of the 8 people, you'd be pissed. You wouldn't sit there and just go, whatever." No, particularly if you shelled out $3,500. Come on, don't be sociopathic. This is pissing off people, and if it continues, I don't want anybody to sit there and discount this because nobody gave me a discount on cracked $3,500 glasses. I paid $3,500 for them. Now they're breaking. This could be something as easy as they're already under stress when they were made. And so when somebody pushes just a little bit on one side of the curved glass, it cracks right there. It could be that simple to discover it too. Why is it cracking right there? The cause is a mystery because the owners say that they didn't drop it, mishandle it, or because or abuse the headset in any way. But of course, everybody's going to say that. After an outlier 18 days ago, several more owners have reported the same problem occurring in the last 48 hours. And as word gets out, more people are going to sit there and go, "Oh, look, mine are doing it too." So Apple hasn't said anything about it. If you pay for the repair, it costs $800 to replace the front glass. If you buy the $500 Apple Care plan, the cost drops to $300. So you're still out $800. So I guess break it again and break it again. So look,
No, I don't know.
it's
Wasn't there something about how much the maintenance plan or whatever costs for this
yeah, it
in a
was five
separate
hundred
article?
bucks. Yeah, it's five
Okay.
hundred bucks. Um, and it's the Apple Care Plus plan because they're so expensive. It's $500. Um, and yeah, we had talked about this. So they say an insane 10-foot drop test resulted in a Vision Pro visor that cracked, like automotive safety glass, but drops weren't the issue, according to ongoing reports from Vision Pro owners. There's another one. This Vision Pro had a long crack running from top to bottom, so it split right down the middle. I don't know how these are formed, but this crack is suspiciously precise.
I agree. But then that might be like a design flaw, right?
Yeah.
But it does. It's like
A
most
perfect
cracks wouldn't
line.
be that uniform. Yeah.
It is a perfect line. I would not be surprised if they find out somebody needs to do a stress test with this to see where the tension really is on this pane of glass. Um, and maybe they'll find out that this thing is under tension and the slightest flaw, a little bump, anything, something is going to cause it to split. So they say, of course, the Vision Pro doesn't fold. It does, however, have a complex curvature in that region that rolls over the bottom edge while simultaneously bending upward to make room for the nose. Is Apple's glass manufacturing too complex? There were reportedly manufacturing issues that delayed the Vision Pro's launch, and Digital Trends links to another digitaltrends.com article. Yeah, I suspect that there is something. I mean, it's almost downright obvious, but um, when I sit there and say this, well, there's obviously a problem, but I think the problem is that the glass is created in a way that it's still stressed, and that fracture is because it just can't maintain that angle of attack. So one little bump, too much heat, and then coming into the cold, or one way or another, it's causing this sheet to just fracture right there. I would not pay for that. I mean, I would be freaking livid if my $3,500 and more than one report. Obviously, if I was disingenuous and I dropped it and then I said it didn't drop it, yeah, okay, well, you're a horrible person. But these people did not drop it, and I think it's going to
Well,
come
this
out
is
more
why you don't buy $3,500
first iteration.
glasses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Version 2. Watch. Version 2, and this pane of glass is going to be straight as a freaking arrow. There's not going to be all graceful, curvy, nothing. This right here, the little thing that it bolts onto, it's going to go from all curvy to, it's going to be curvy, but it's going to be, they're going to get rid of the LCD or LED or the OLED screen behind this pane of glass, and they're just going to start looking like a Tesla Cybertruck. All angly and ugly. Although, I like that. I mean, I like angles. Anyway, let's keep going. I don't want to spend too long. The next article is over on the Marvel Channel. Star Trek Discovery crew preps for The Last Dance in new Season 5 trailer. I haven't watched this yet, but this is going to be a final year of Discovery. I like the title of that. That's my title. As the countdown to Star Trek Discovery's final season continues, the Season 4 premiere is April 5th. Sorry, I don't know what my brain just threw in there. The Season 5 premiere is April 4th on Paramount+. We have our latest peek at how the story will wrap up, and from the looks of it, and perhaps unsurprisingly, farewells will be among the themes foregrounded in the story. The article is by Cheryl Eddy over at Gizmodo.com. A Star Trek series starring, is it Sonique? Martin Green as Captain
Sonequa?
Michael. Is it
Probably.
Sonequa? A Sonequa Martin Green. I don't remember ever. Huh. Okay. Anyway, as Captain
I
Michael
don't remember
Burnham.
seeing that at the beginning of the show.
I guess I don't remember her name. Anyway, as Captain Michael Burnham returns for its final season, April 4th on Paramount. Why did they say Season 4? In that little snippet, didn't it say Season 4?
No, I think it was just the date.
Oh, maybe I just munched all that together. Weird. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, it's been a hell of a journey, but everything ends someday, says Captain Michael Burnham. As the trailer begins, that's sad. They're already coming out of the gate swinging that it's over. Seemingly addressing not just whoever in Discovery's cast that's sharing the scene with her, but the fans too. Last dance, she later says wistfully to Commander Saru, who replies he's ready to follow her lead. So who knows what's going on with this. Let me pause this, if I can pause this. Make it a little difficult to actually see. Look, I'm clicking that like nobody's business. There we go. Thank you.
It does not want to pause.
It does not. So, yeah, it says, we'll be sorry. The author says, we'll be sorry to see this chapter of Starfleet history close, but we're looking forward to the ride. And I agree. I'm really interested. I love the modern Star Trek. But I am a little saddened by the fact that it's darker and much more aggressive than I remember any other version. Even Deep Space Nine seemed to be lighter in its, I don't know, in its atmosphere than Discovery by a long shot. And there was a war during Deep Space Nine.
But I think it depends on the viewer. So if they are a prior Star Trek viewer, maybe so. But if they're just watching Discovery as their first Star Trek show, they might not have that same assessment.
Maybe it's normal. Yeah, I guess so. But then they're going to look back and they're going to go, oh, I don't know about this. Yep. Do you think that people are going out and buying Saru brand shoes? Like, do you think that there's Nike shoes that look like Saru's?
I don't think so, because
Do
I
you
don't
see?
think that's going to be comfortable for most people. Yeah, I can see that in the photo.
Yeah, he has to arc his whole body to keep himself standing upright. He developed a whole new walk and everything so that he could actually do that. That'd be funny. I'm gonna have to do a search to see if I can find Saru shoes. Show up to the office in those and watch people go, "What the hell?"
Unless they're a Star Trek Discovery.
Then they'll know. They're like, "Hey, cool shoes." Again, this article is over at gizmodo.com from Cheryl Eddy. But the link is in the VOD. It's going to be in the show notes. It'll be over on ohmTown.com. Okay. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, follow us over here on twitch.tv/ohmTown. Go over to YouTube, follow us, ring the bell, do all of that kind of stuff, and then download the podcast, leave a 5-star review. Go over to the Discord, leave a comment. That'd be great. Okay, let's keep going. Or not. The next article is over in the Marvel channel.
Pause.
Dramatic dead air. The next article is over in the Marvel channel. How to build your own robot friend, making AI education more accessible. From smart virtual assistants and self-driving cars to digital health and fraud prevention systems, AI technology is transforming almost every aspect of our daily lives, and education is no different. For all its promise, the rise of AI, like any new technology, raises some pressing ethical and equity questions. There's the biggest equity question is access to technology. If everybody had a laptop, there wouldn't be the same level of equity related issue.
But what about the data that goes into it too? It's not necessarily equitable.
Well, yeah. So there have been some reports that the information that's going into and coming out of AI has a racial inequality bias, and I can totally expect that, and that's because historically, academia and technology in general has been weighted more towards white middle class males. Because the first person, when I was just barely, my first interaction with the internet was when I was 10 years old and I was using a 110 baud modem on a military base, and I typed something in after dialing on a rotary dial and waiting for the sound, and then off I went. And the person that I interacted with, I had no idea what race, gender, age, anything, right? Years later, I find out that the chances of this being anything other than a middle-class white male was slim to none. It was on par with my chances of becoming an NFL superstar and dating Taylor Swift. By the way, a Taylor Swift album that's made off of the Kelsey relationship is going to sell like hotcakes.
That is true.
Anyway, so yeah, and this is actually coming out more and more, but nobody should be surprised by this. Unfortunately, nobody should be surprised.
No, I agree. I mean, we've seen enough signs, and I think unfortunately, this is inevitable until we start making other societal changes.
Yeah. Like everybody should be treated as equal, and
I know some pretty wild concepts.
I mean, it's pretty amazing, but no, what we end up with are people sitting there in response to something like Black Lives Matter. Somebody is sitting there going, all lives matter. To which I say, pull your head out of your butt and look around. If there was no reason to sit there and say Black Lives Matter, nobody would be saying Black Lives Matter.
Right. There might be a reason behind that saying.
There is always a reason why something is taking place. It may not come out at first blush what the real reason is, but in the case of Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. The reason why I say it like that is because there are some people that have an agenda, and it's either greed bound or a political ideological bent bound or religious or whatever. Myriad reasons why somebody would taint the real message, like calling a bill a freedom bill, but then it's about mass surveillance, that kind of thing. But when somebody sits there and says Black Lives Matter, guess what? Black Lives Matter. Start paying attention. So when AI and education cross paths, the equity side of this is that not everybody has access to technology that gives them the ability to access and maybe course correct AI's bias by inputting data or drawing attention to the fact that there is some bias internal to AI systemically. And you can do this with every single field, every single area of society. There is a bias, and it's typically because those who have money, power, influence it's ever changing to greater equity. But even today, it's still white, middle class males that already have come from affluence. So it's not like they ever struggled. And I will argue probably until my deathbed that the evidence is obvious that as you move up in affluence, you become sociopathic. Anyway, that's a side note to this. This article is over at phys.org. Caitlin Dawson and Rania Sotirdo over at University of Southern California put this article together. I'm not quite sure why they have this, but they say USC researchers have created a low-cost, accessible learning kit to help college and high school students build their own robot friend. Is this the robot friend? It looks like 3D printed ears. And
I hope it is. It's much cuter than I would expect for a robot.
Like a little sack toy kind of a thing, right? It's like a knitted sack toy. So how can we ensure that such a powerful tool can be accessed by all students regardless of background? Inspired by this call to action, USC researchers have created a low-cost, accessible learning kit to help college and high school students build their own robot friend. Students can personalize the robot's body, program the robot to mimic their head posture, and learn about AI ethics and fairness in an engaging and accessible way. I want this. The system is outlined in a new study called Build Your Own Robot Friend, an open source learning module for accessible and engaging AI education. I might have to get this. It's over on Archive. and presented at the AAAI conference on artificial intelligence education symposium track. So I'm probably gonna end up getting this. Yeah, so it is a little robot framework, and then you put your little like body all over it. Like, I don't know what it is. Currently, pre-built robots such as the NAO are unaffordable for schools with limited resources, while educational robot kits such as the Lego Mindstorm, though affordable, do not adapt to students at different levels. Plus, it's Lego Mindstorms. It's not something personable. It's appreciable, but not everybody resonates with Lego Mindstorm. So to make the robot more affordable, they develop strategies to subsidize its costs. I actually know of a group that might want to facilitate this. So I'm going to reach out to somebody and see if maybe they can crowdfund this project. To make the robot more affordable, they develop strategies to subsidize its cost. In the version of Blossom presented in the study, the materials are created using 3D printers instead of more costly laser printing, which, no. Okay, anyway, currently one of the team's customizable robots costs around $250 to make. In comparison, the NAO robot costs around $15,000. That's probably because this isn't seeking profit. O'Connell, who learned to crochet during the pandemic, designed 5 new Blossom exteriors and created detailed, easy-to-follow patterns and tutorials for each version, including a baby onesie, knitted and crocheted options, which are all low-cost and customizable. So this seems like it's really cool, but there's a lot of goodwill that's involved in making this thing cost approachable. And that's kind of the shame here, is that it takes people who shouldn't be sacrificing to sacrifice, right? Educators are already making less than they should be.
Right, then they're spending on supplies and everything out of their own pockets.
Exactly. And while, again, I think it's great, it's not the actual cost of the operation. So, I mean, I appreciate this, and I think I think it's needed. So in continued work, the team plans to further evaluate and improve the module for high school students and K through 12 students. Ultimately, the researchers hope to expand access for students at different educational levels. So yeah, I'm going to make a call. It'll have to be on Monday. I can't do it during the weekend, but I'll reach out to somebody and see if I can put them in touch with this, because they already do 3D printed based crowdfunding and crowd production, typically during Christmas. But maybe this can help their particular project as well. To reduce the cost and development time for the learners, the team customized and simplified Blossom. She previously used the robot to design better AI voices for mindfulness exercises, while O'Connell programmed it to act as a study buddy for students with ADHD symptoms. That's neat. Like reminding the students, hey, go study. Hey. Maybe it sounds like the little, I can't remember what they call it. Oh, I'm going to lose my credibility here if I had any. Where it says, hey, listen. And you're supposed to pay attention to what the little pixie says. Oh, God, I forgot it. Anyway, I better move on. This seems like it's a really fun project, and does that social good that I think all businesses should partake in. And they do it out of the goodness of their heart, not because it's a freaking tax write-off. Okay, so the next article is over in the Mobile Channel. U.S. tracking high altitude balloon over Midwest. I asked, is it a Chinese New Year balloon? The North American Aerospace.
It sure could be.
It might be. You don't know. But they said that they're tracking a small balloon at roughly 43,000 to 45,000 feet. The FAA is also assisting with the monitoring of the balloon. NORAD fighter jet scrambled over Utah and determined it was not maneuverable and did not present a threat to national security. Just blow it out of the sky. It's not supposed to be there. NORAD will continue to track and monitor the balloon. The FAA also determined the balloon pose no hazard to flight safety. Uh, they're very amicable. Brad Dress over at thehill.com put this article together. They haven't
Maybe
said
it's not
anything.
3 school buses in size, so maybe they're not worried about it.
I think it was Taiwan that said that like a dozen of these balloons have floated over it in the last year. The incident comes a little more after a year, a little more than a year after Chinese government, China flew a spy balloon over the mainland U.S. before an American fighter jet shot it out of the sky off the coast of South Carolina. Beijing denied the balloon was used for reconnaissance, despite Washington showing evidence that it had antennas and other surveillance equipment. China has also flown spy balloons, oh, there it is, over Taiwan and other countries in a campaign the U.S. says is global in scope. Well, that's nice. So the Chinese spy balloon also forced NORAD to tweak radars to look for potential threats at higher altitude and smaller targets, because this apparently didn't actually show up. So, or it did.
Even though it was 3 school buses long.
Yeah, that is now a measure of distance. So how many school buses or how many Chinese spy balloon school buses does it take to get from one side of the country to the other? Apparently a couple of days of NORAD tracking. That's the full measurement. And you thought that converting from imperial to metric was going to be
that's
tough.
Right.
Just wait till you have to transition from imperial to metric to Chinese surveillance balloon. That's going to be a bitch. Let's keep going. Our last article for tonight is over in ohmTown Daily. A former Gizmodo writer changed his name to Slackbot and stayed undetected for months. Hiding on Slack isn't all that hard, apparently, if you just pretend that you're a bot. That's what IT Brew's Tom McKay did when he left Gizmodo in 2022, and he went undetected by the site's management for months. In a post on the website formerly known as Twitter, McKay shared some screenshots of the new Slackbot persona he took on after he officially left Gizmodo. He also confirms to The Verge that the silly prank really did happen. What's interesting about this, though, is I wonder if Slackbot is a trademark term, and he actually violated trademark by using it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up unless you're going to do that. So Emma Roth over at The Verge put the article together, and the deck statement says management didn't pick up on the duplicate Slackbot or its grouchy new eyebrows. So I guess he did that.
So Slack doesn't put a trademark symbol next to Slackbot.
Oh, so it really doesn't matter. Although that's always nebulous. But
they have Slackbot all over their site.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up on the USPTO. So in a post on the Twitter website, because I refuse to. Oh, by the way, Elon Musk is getting like really pissed off at people who are dead naming the website formerly known as Twitter. So if you're not glued to Slack for for most of the day, like the author is, then you might not know that Slackbot is the friendly robot that lives in the messaging service. And if you do things like set reminders, find out your office's Wi-Fi password, or let you know when you've been mentioned in a channel that you're part of, that's Slackbot. And Discord does similar kind of things. And ohmTown actually on the Twitch site has a bot called Ohmatron that does similar things. Lets me know if you know the right command. Certain things. Anyway, the move camouflaged McKay's active Slack account for months, letting his account evade deletion. It also allowed him to send bot-like messages to his colleagues, such as Slackbot fact of the day: "Hi, I'm Slackbot. That's a fact. Have a slackly day." My colleague Victoria Song, who previously worked at Gizmodo, isn't all that surprised that this situation unfolded, and says that, quote, as Tom's former co-worker and a G/O media survivor. What is G/O? Gizmodo? Go Media? guess Geo Media. I
Maybe.
don't know. Media Survivor. This tracks. So I guess they were known for pulling this kind of a prank and not being detected. Isn't surprised. Anyway, they left Gizmodo. I'm surprised that like Gizmodo didn't write about this, and at least poke fun at it
That would have been
itself.
great.
But no, they're probably pissed. So that's some
That's true, but it would have shown some real,
personality.
I don't know, sense of humor, personality,
Yeah.
etc. For
Don't
them
take
to
yourself
the
too
story.
seriously. Yeah. But hey, you know what? You need to know who is actually inside your enterprise, and
Yeah, that's clearly not happening here.
yeah, that one's going to be rough to live down. Somebody in the management of the Slack channels is going to be either reprimanded or fired. There might be a position for
That is
Slack
true.
account
Whatever
manager.
it's called, Slack manager or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Slack community manager. All right, folks, that's it. I mean, that last article wasn't really stellar, but I'm not slacking because we're getting back on the party bus, driving down Main Street. Here is our original page. Marijuana advocates urge Biden to act. Well, what? Break out a bong or something? What? Anyway, should I refresh? What do you think?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, probably not. So we always refresh. Oh my goodness.
As soon as I said it, the articles changed at the top.
Yeah. That's all I can say. Go over to ohmTown.com, become a citizen. You get all kinds of other functionality activated when you're a citizen. With that in
The
mind,
continuity report was only showing, by the way, not the model articles.
Yeah, and I don't lock that banner at the top, so I guess I could, and then I could just hide it, but I'm a dummy. Anyway, maybe I'll fix that. Anyway,
sorry for messing up your outro.
You're
2
fine.
times.
It's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm MayorWatt. That's ohmTown.com, and up there is the visualizer for the sentient AI that is slowly rolling over me like a Chinese spy balloon bus, whatever. I don't know. I'm lost. You want to say bye?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. We will see you tomorrow at approximately 6 p.m. We're starting a new show.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have Wanted, and then we will have the ohmTown Daily and also Reality Hacker.
That's right. And then on Sunday, there's going to be Technology Today, the daily news show, ohmTown Daily, and Continuity Report. Wow. God, I'm starting to lose track. It's getting busy all up in here. See you soon. Oh, this time the end screen worked. See you tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.